Hey everyone, it's Louisa from Feel Good Astrology, and I'm delighted once again. We've got Jeff Granville back in the house. Whew, we're coming from two different continents, but we've got the collective energy of both of us, and hopefully a load of people that are with us. Anyway, let's bring him on. Let's invite him to the show now. Hey Jeff, how are you doing?
Great, Louisa. Good to be with you again for another feel good conversation.
Oh, I've just lost you on my screen. Hang on.
Oh,
Can you still see me?
I can see you.
I just went to move the computer back ever so slightly, and having a last minute fiddle, and then just turned it off accidentally. So how are you since we last spoke? What's new with you?
Oh, I'm really good. I just got done with 3 days up at our beach cabin on Guimas Island. I think one of the times we did a show, I was sitting out on the deck of the store to get Wi-Fi, and the foghorn was going off. I was reminded of that from one of our listeners who heard that show. But yeah, I just had a beautiful 3 days of integration and downloads and meditation and beach fires, and had a great time.
Excellent. Tell me about your process when you're downloading, because like I'm a kind of fellow channeler. Tell me, how do you go about downloading, and what is a download for people who aren't aware of what you're speaking of?
Well, it really plays into the whole, clear to zero. The biohacking, the physiology of our divinity is exactly that, where we use intentional breath and have a coherent breath rhythm, which entrains a coherent heart rhythm that shuts down the left brain chatter and opens you to the right brain of divinity. And that's where the download comes. It's where every poem, every song is written, every invention is made, every mathematical equation is found in nature. You'll have the artist, the genius, say, I don't know where that came from. It was coming to me. It was a download, and I wrote it on the napkin, and that's how my platinum record was created, right?
Yeah.
So being in a space to receive divinity, biohacking your own divinity, puts you in connection for that download. So my process is my coherence breathing, feeling the pulse in my body, and breathing in 5 heartbeats and out 5 heartbeats brings me to zero. And I do that every day in an hour meditation. Plus I keep that breathing going through like a half hour of stretching. And then I do my coherence breathing in my plank, which I wanted to talk about a little bit too. But what it does, and I don't try to banish thoughts. I just notice the quality of my thoughts and be the observer of those. Because if you're trying to meditate and you're getting a reminder that you need to get a cup of sugar and you lost your keys, and those are bombarding thoughts from your left brain.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out your day. But if you are getting thoughts coming into your meditative time that are inspiring, and oh yeah, I need to make a note of that, and that's where the gold is. That's where the juice flows. So that's my process.
Excellent. And it sounds really awesome. And we're joined here today by Anne Burrell Cox, who I know is sat in Scotland. So hi, Anne. Thanks for joining us. It's very nice to have you on the show. Let us know if you've got a question for us. We've got Calming Waters Tai Chi, who I believe we're both friends with, very well. A gift to be joining you, beautiful souls. Likewise, thank you so much for joining us today. So have you always been able to download that you've been consciously aware of? And this is something that I'd like to understand, because for a lot of people, I think we're always doing it. Like children, for instance, I think of the absolute skill of being able to just kind of tune in and know what's really true for them. They feel it. When did you get aware that was what was happening for you, Jeff?
Great question. I hadn't thought of that, but I am a patented inventor. And I was one of those, in those situations in my early 20s where I was faced with an issue at work, and I was in the moment, and necessity is the mother of invention.
It
And I
is,
really cared about what's happening. I worked on a fuel dock in Anacortes in a marina. And every time the boats would fill up, it would spit out a little bit of fuel into the water. And that bothered me. And every time it happened, I tried to contain it, and people just let it go in the water and spray dish soap on it, and sinks to the bottom and creates pollution. And I just couldn't bear that. It just bothered me so much to be there and look at pollution happening, habitual, consistent pollution is the worst kind, worse than a big spill. So I was just in the moment, and the download came, and I thought of exactly what needed to happen. And it was virtually the final design. It was amazing. And prior to that, I remember being in nature, being at play, and having inspiration and things that just made my soul sing, my heart sing. It wasn't about inventing something or singing a song. It was just how to be connected, how to be, I didn't always have a safe place at home. And there was times where escaping to Mother Nature or climbing a tall, tall tree was my sanctuary space. So I felt held in nature. So just earthing and breathing in nature was innate for me. I was raised going over to our family place on the beach, and we all grew up with sand in our diapers, that type of thing. So I've been set down in nature for playtime since I was a baby. And my mom sat there while I was in utero, I know it. So, so I have a little cup of agates behind my candle, and we go beach hunting for agates. And what
agates?
Agates are a semi-precious crystalline. They're, I've got this little jug here, and they're like,
Oh, yes, sorry. Agates.
Yeah. Agates.
We pronounce them slightly differently.
Oh, I'm sure of that. But if that were the only thing we pronounced differently, we'd be in.
It's so funny when my daughter's been watching a lot of Netflix. She's got more of an American accent, so we might be talking about lifts, and she's talking about elevators and stuff like that. It's like, what? It's like we're speaking different languages sometimes. No, I totally understand. Yeah, they're very precious, aren't they?
Yeah. So what do you call them?
A gate.
A gate. Oh, I like agates because they're a gateway. They're a portal, definitely.
Exactly, yeah. I was wondering, what is that?
Yeah.
It's always good to find out, though, isn't it, and get clear.
Yeah.
Thank you for you sent me a lovely video this weekend, and that must be the hideaway that you're speaking of, where you were in the water. And I actually felt very much like I was there. I could almost feel my my legs cooling down and my cheeks cooling down, because it felt like a very kind of clean and clear place.
Yeah. Yeah, it is beautiful. And I'm, I fish off the beach right in front of our cabin, and I get ankle deep in the salt water and the rocks and sand between my toes, and, do the little Ho'oponopono prayer for the salmon to come in. And it's actually an ancient First Nation fishing village.
Can I just check? Are you fiddling around your microphone?
I was, yes. Yeah. You could hear that, huh?
Yeah. You'll hear it on the playback. Don't worry, carry on.
I felt your hand. Yeah. So down from the beach we're on is called South Indian Village Lane. And the next road is Potlatch Village. And it's where the tribes from all over the region would come for ceremony. And it was a protected place, and it was a fishing village in the summer and fall. And down from our beach at the end of the houses is an old burial site that we used to go to when we were kids. And really, we treated it with respect. It was like a little scary, a little spooky, but it kind of in the dark hours on Friday night, I went down there and got ankle deep in the water and faced up to the burial ground and did my Ho'oponopono to the First Nation and, try to heal humanity. So
I think that's very powerful.
Beautiful. Yeah, it was a beautiful time.
Absolutely. We've Calming Waters has shared with us, my brother was paralyzed waist down at 19. So my dad and his best friend patented a handlebar brake shifter for his motorcycle. My brother says he finds God on his bike.
Amen to that.
Isn't that wonderful? Again, it goes back to your comment, what was it? The necessity. Oh, I can never get that one right.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yes. Because when we need to find a solution, there's always not just one, but often many solutions around. And the way I sense them as an empath and kind of psychic, I almost imagine them as like little files hanging in the sky that like can connect to us. And obviously, I don't know actually how those thought forms of answers and solutions actually exist, but that's my perception. And I always know that when there is a problem, there is often lots of different solutions, and it's just for us to get calm and to put ourselves in the right state to be able to receive it.
Absolutely. I agree with all of that. And we all can conceptualize and visualize it different because we don't know.
Yeah.
And there's a book of like 1,700 different inventions over time. I think we've talked about simultaneous invention before, where when humanity has a need, the download is there. And whoever is in the moment with the need will get the download. And it can look different to different people because they interpret it with their brain. And it's a beautiful thing because like I just finished about a month ago the book from David Hawkins called Power versus Force. And he talks about collective consciousness and kinesiology, muscle testing. And he says that, and I love the way he puts it, I hope I don't butcher it, but
Don't worry.
a problem can't exist unless the answer already exists. And that's not the way he says it. But we can't experience anything in this 3D world, 3D or energetically. Anything that can be viewed as a problem already has a solution, or the problem couldn't exist. So that is how people tap into that download for healing, is that they, like Edgar Cayce, the most documented healer in history, would tap into the problem and then the answer would come through him. He would take it into his own body, oftentimes just through the vibrations of a phone, over the phone line. He would hear it in the person and then feel it in his body and heal it in his body and send it back. So he was being in the moment with the person, with the need, and the answer's already there. So I use that a lot when I work with care recipients, because everybody, when they have a problem, is focused on the problem and there isn't a solution. They can't, it's actually one of the qualifiers to make an event-specific biological marker in your body that we talk about somatic trauma being blocked in your body, is the perception that it's inescapable. So if we then learn new skills that it is escapable, that it was inescapable then, but it no longer is inescapable, it dissipates.
Yes.
So that's all part of the download. That's all part of collective consciousness and what we have available to us, in whether you're inventing or healing or cooking, looking for inspiration to cook or whatever. It's there for us. And that's our divinity. That is the entire meaning behind biohacking the physiology of your divinity, because like Ho'oponopono says, if your cup is full of human windings, you have no room for divinity, for that divine download. So doing the breath work, doing the mantra, getting yourself to zero, and that was the topic of our last talk, was creating from zero. And that really is what we're talking about here, because you can't create from left brain solve matter with matter. Definitely You're not creative. You're just trying to put out fire or run or get the kids to put on their shoes or whatever it is, But when you are at zero, when you have a way, a modality to breathe your way and get coherent to zero, then the download comes. Like when you're not in the mood to cook, it's hard to think of what to cook. But when you're in the mood to cook, it is like, wow, I can't believe I put that together. Where did it come from? That was my best meal ever, you know?
And it always tastes so good, doesn't it, when you do that?
Yeah.
We've got another comment from Calming Waters. It's Sharon, isn't it? That's Calming Waters. Is that right, Jeff? Shouldn't be revealing aliases. And Jeff, I just did Ho'oponopono in my grandma's room while holding my healing rock, Charlie, from Sundance. I held her there for all humanity. Can't wait to share this story with both of you. I can't wait to hear it either.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So we've had a little chat, a kind of like a little chin wag, haven't we? We've just been catching up, really. But let's get down to the business at hand, because the title for today's show is The Spiral of Ascension. So is this the next step from bringing yourself down to zero?
Well, it is.
Talk to me about it.
Being able to get yourself to zero is getting to a place where you can, like Carl Jung says, until we bring the subconscious conscious, it'll control our life and we'll call it fate. So if you just feel things are happening to you, then you are on a spiral of descension, usually. It's not usually good things keep happening to me when I'm not paying attention. It's usually bad things happen and bad results. So in this, the picture that I shared with you is like a circle of books that hold a place in our physiology. And this was a download for me. This was literally a download for me.
Okay. I'm just going to see if I can share this, Jeff.
Oh, okay.
And I think we can. There we go. There's your picture.
Yeah. And it is kind of hard to see. It's a little dark, but
let me just make it even bigger. Hang on.
Yeah.
There you go. And let me take our names off.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. So where it starts at the top, that book, you can't see the title, but it's Heart Math. It's Heart Intelligence from Heart Math.
Yeah.
And then just to the right of it is The Heart's Code by Paul Pearsall. And what they show through Heart Math's research and development over the last 30 years is that the heart receives information from your environment up to 6 seconds ahead of when it happens. It's precognitive. And there's many tests that they've done that have been double-blind studied that shows how this works. And then Paul Pearsall's book talks about the heart is the conductor of the orchestra and cellular memory, and how it uses the autonomic consciousness to bring attention. Like it senses something in our environment and it tries to get our attention so that we can survive, thrive, and procreate. But then you go to the right, and I've got Joe Bolte Taylor's book, Whole Brain Living. And then I've got Dan Siegel's book, Mindsight. So those hold place for how you are wired, how social and environmental influences have wired your brain to respond to the things you're feeling in your life. And then you go to the next book, which is really dark, but it's, just dark in color. He didn't write a dark book, but it's Bruce Lipton's book, Biology of Belief. And then you go to Joe Dispenza's book, You Are the Placebo and Becoming Superhuman. And then we go to Molecules of Emotion by Candace Pert.
Oh, you've spoken about that, I think, at every show we've done.
Yeah. So,
it's one on my list.
Yeah. Which Candace Pert's book? Yeah.
It's on my list of books to read.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So many times.
It's beautiful. And so then you come down to James Oshman's book about energy medicine, how energy goes through the fascia of your body and it creates your physical being. So this is any life experience that anybody has ever experienced follows this matrix around to the bottom. And it even goes further. If you're unconscious of this, if you're unaware of this, it continues to go, because where you're at with your body and the power of now and what you visualize, you alchemize, and then it affects your stance with spirit. So I have Deepak Chopra at the top because I read that book after I got McCoy's diagnosis, and I no longer, like, my belief system was shattered. I couldn't believe in a God that would do this, and I needed to find a new, like Deepak Chopra says, a God 2.0. So what we find is that you can plug McCoy's story or any operation or any trip to the beach, anything you experience in life, like the hero's journey, goes through this matrix. Right?
I was just about to say, this is like the hero's journey.
It is like the hero's journey. And the new podcast that Geraldine and I have put together is called Apotheosis. And it is part of the hero's journey about becoming divinity. And being God. And it doesn't mean I feel like I'm God. It means that we are, well, it does. We've all are divinity. We all have divinity within us. And that's where biohacking the physiology of divinity, and Jill Bolte Taylor says our right brain, not right hemisphere, it's a right brain, is divinity, not our connection to divinity. It is divinity. Okay. And I just have to plug, I have a Zoom with her on November 1st to be part of this roundtable event with Jill Bolte Taylor.
Oh, no way. Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. She responded and we scheduled a Zoom meeting to talk about this and her participating in the roundtable event. So
that's on the 1st of November.
1st of November, I'm going to Zoom with her and then hopefully get her participation in this. And I have many others. I'm creating a roundtable event where a representative of each of these books is there to speak about how McCoy got through each of his miraculous procedures, and then from everything they know, how we can integrate that into society for everybody to follow. So
what a wonderful project.
Yeah, I get to go to Sedona in December and meet with Bruce Lipton and Elon Cohen about putting on an event. And then Bruce Cryer, the former CEO of HeartMath, who is president of the Graduate Institute, says that he wants to moderate the show. He wants to be the host, and he'll get Roland McCready to sit in the HeartMath chair. And we're trying to get Joe Dispenza involved and get Gaia involved to do the backstory. So it's quantum alchemy. I mean, this download came to me a year ago when I was setting out these books. I set them out in a square to make a reading list for a radio show. And I ended up saying, well, wait a minute, the heart gets the message, and based on how the brain is wired, it creates your belief system, and then that makes it, the placebo effect makes it real in your body. And Candace Pert's book, Molecules of Emotion, say how that thoughts and emotions actually become the fiber of your body, because molecules in cells change the cells. And then at the bottom, if we can realize this journey and come to zero, we can use the information in crisis to creation. Like when we take a hit in life, we can either go down, descend, or we can take power, take control, and utilize this with consciousness. So like I've got Dr. Stephen Hall on the 7 Tools for Healing scheduled for an interview on the podcast as well. I already have 7 people lined up for our weekly podcast with Geraldine. So then you look at Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul, talking about the center of the universe and a singularity, you're the seat of witness. And then Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, where you're not your thoughts and emotions, and the power of choice is in the now. And then you go to Shaki Gawaine's book. I wish she was still.
I bought that. That's one of the first ones. I remember buying it when I was at school.
Yeah.
You know, that's 30 years ago.
It's actually the only book in this circle that I read before McCoy's diagnosis. I read other books, like I say in my presentation, The Celestine Prophecy
Yes, that was one
was
of
a
mine as
major book. Jonathan
well.
Livingston Seagull was another important book to me when I was a preteen.
Conversations with God is another
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, I didn't read that, but I've seen a lot of excerpts and video from it.
Yeah.
But then if you can be in the power of now and creatively visualize the outcome you want, and you're a quantum alchemist, like in the book The Alchemist, then you create a positive outcome instead of a negative outcome, and then you immediately have a different stance with spirit. Because if you are faced with a challenge, you might not be in a good place with spirit. But if you become heart-centered and coherent, and you understand how your brain is wired that sets up your belief systems and your subconscious programs, then we have the power to change that outcome. So this circle of books that I've created, it's my spiral of ascension, is using the techniques in all of these books to come from zero and create from zero the outcome that you want in your life.
I love that, and I'm smiling a little bit because in my own experience, my own practice, I recognize your model in a different way. Like it could be called like the hero's journey. When you started at the top and it was all about the head, it's like the crown chakra, and you're coming down to zero, going right down to the sacral chakra and beyond. So first of all, I was imagining like a crystal layout, because when I was 15, I worked with a really beautiful crystal healer who taught me how to, work with crystals and colors and sounds and tones. Really beautiful. And then work your way back up again. So that instantly took me back to those moments. But of course, I work with circles all day long, with astrology and looking at the narrative of people and their own heroes' journeys. And often I'm looking at their possible outcomes and how they or their current outward facing direction, and then how they can kind of work back and kind of scale it back and really find out who they are, kind of like let go of all the personas that we've got, whilst also doing it myself, because obviously that's what we're all doing, isn't it? While we're learning and helping people, we're also doing it with ourselves. We're getting ourselves back to zero, and then actually doing it the second time round, actually going around the climb and really putting things around us, like new coats, new disguises, new masks, actually really suit us and are really helping us. I think a lot of us in the first part of our life are very much receiving and grasping and holding on to. And another thing that I notice as I get older is it's less about holding on and more about letting go and giving. It's beautiful. I really like your spiral of ascension. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it is beautiful. And thank you. I like your explanation as well, because it is the same thing said a different way, laid out a different way, but it utilizes the same path. And when you get to zero, it's your intention. You're consciously aware, because you can't do this unless you're aware of it, right? It just happens automatically. Like Carl Jung says, the subconscious will run your life and you'll call it fate. Unless you bring it to your conscious mind, then you can guide it, then you can change it. And
that also, sorry to interrupt, when we were talking about how did you say there was 170,000 or 17,000 inventions that all happen simultaneously? This is, we are all birthing like those who are ready to birth these ascendancy models, or models of realization and awakening. They're coming out in just the right way for the right people that find you. The right person that resonates with that will find you, Jeff.
Yeah.
They won't even have to try. They'll just feel you somehow and connect with you.
Yeah, that is beautiful. And that's why the book talks about, I think it's 1,700 simultaneous inventions. There's thousands more, but these are the ones they've documented over time. And the beautiful part about that is that when you're in that moment of need and you dip your hands into the download and you get what you need from it. And it can be interpreted different by other people for their specific needs or the way they speak or the way that their community is. And it all depends on your response to that, how you apply that. And the universe gives the download to multiple people at the same time because not everybody follows through. Yeah. So I dipped into this because my son was in the pediatric environment and he needed something they didn't have to offer. Yes. So when I dipped in that download, I got the answer. And like Sharon, who helped me as we worked together, is that I got the healing I needed to be the father I needed to be, that from the father I didn't have in the moment. So it's that ancestral repair that happens when you're in that being the eye of the storm and you're trying to fit through the eye of the needle, like an emergent do or die surgery procedure. You are just at zero. You are just in that moment so thick. As long as you're not mad at the doctors and upset with the diagnosis, and you got to set all that aside and really get to zero, and then the answer comes. And then it's an answer for everybody, because whether you look at it like this circle or down the chakras and back up, it does the same thing for people because it's in the same download. It's getting that same information, but it's just interpreted different. And we need that because we all don't respond to the same, sound therapy doesn't resonate with everybody. It helps some people and is dissonant to others. So I think that's the important part, is that, and how we bring all the different teachings together is we don't say this is the only way and be non-inclusive. We have to be inclusive because most of these books I have in the circle are from a teacher, a learned master who's brought this download forward through them to us. And, you could replace Deepak Chopra's book with the Bible. You could take another book and replace it, because each of these books are like sitting on a pinnacle of history and information. They're just the books that I've used to represent each part of the physical journey and the spiritual journey. And I would say that there's probably not a better book out there than the ones that I've accessed. I mean, nobody teaches heart intelligence like Heart Math, and nobody dives deep into cellular memory like Paul Pearsall in the Heart Code. And Jill Bolte Taylor she came from crisis to creation to get the download, to share their stroke of insight, and look where she's gone with it. I mean, this book is amazing. It's just, it just really ties things together. And one of the important parts I want to talk about it before we go away from the picture is that in the center, I have Michio Kaku's The God Equation. That's string field theory, says it's the voice of God that coagulates subatomic particles into atoms and brings your DNA into your body. And, like all physicists, Einstein and all the physicists that took that first drink of natural science and became an atheist, they found deeper at the bottom, God was waiting for them, right? So they all talk about divine intelligence and the Fibonacci and phi and pi and everything that makes us as we are. And then I have Greg Braden's book, The Divine Matrix, in the middle, because he talks about getting to divinity. And of course, Nassim Haramein, who told me the eye of the storm part, and what he talks about getting to zero and rhythmically aligning the oscillation of your atoms. So in the center is creation. The center is God or the universe or quantum physics, whatever. I don't care what people label it with.
Yeah.
It's in the center. I have a candle in my agates, and that represents. But if you look at it like a hub of a wheel, consciousness connects all these books together.
How I was seeing it, that looks like to me a flat depiction of your cone of certainty that you've mentioned.
Yeah.
So the books on the outside are at the base of the cone, and then the light is right at the top end. your cone of,
Ooh,
and
I
then it's
love
just
that.
spiral up and
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. And that is, if I had Gaia helping me with my graphics, if I had a IT account that could afford a graphic engineer, I envision this to be a spiral, and I envision it to be a cone. So you're like, you're in the download with me. You are picking up on, yeah, right? We're entangled and we're heart-centered, and that's what these conversations are all about, because the more people that become aware of this and integrate it, it's like the 100 monkey thing. This is a way for all of humanity to recognize, okay, how did I get here? How did I end up in this position? And then instead of saying, okay, things happen to me, they happen for me. I'm going to empower this information to change the outcome for my future events. And then you have a new stance with spirit. And even if people are the mud puddle theory, where we're just bacteria that grew legs and there's nothing special going on in the universe at all, we can talk to them about it, because they take the spiral regardless of that. And they take that spiral and either ascend and descend because of their position on the mud puddle theory. So this is important. And it's a download that I don't take credit for. This is not ego-based. This is like, I'm sharing out of obligation and privilege and honor the download that came to me in my moment of need with my son. And again, all of these books I read after McCoy was out of the woods, so to speak. I got in touch with all of their teachings through my iPhone, sitting in bed in the hospital with my son, laying in bed sharing, trying to put language to miracles that we'd experienced and gone through. Because I had to try to explain those miracles to the scientists at the hospital so that we could have a chance to recreate them. So this was my quest for language. This was my quest for, what are the PhDs, what are the learned masters saying about what I ran into coherence and Greg Braden talking about coherence, which led me to heart math, which, led me around the circle. So this is divine. And that's not an ego-based comment. This is divinity coming to earth.
You just absolutely answered the question I was going to ask, which was, like, when you read these books and went through your own spiral of ascension, did you realize that everything that you read, you already knew at some level?
Yes. And if you go maybe not as deep and not in their language, and not, I can't take credit for being all knowing before I read these books, but we experienced what they talk about in each of these books. So when you go through these books of mine and you see what I highlighted, these are all things that I've taken and coalesced into the pool that I use when I talk with people and do my presentations and work with care recipients and help people heal, is that this information all plays together.
Yeah. I was just about to ask, for those people that haven't seen the shows that we've done before, because we've done quite a few of them, and they could be forgiven. Could you just give us a little description of your journey with McCoy that has led you here, if that's okay with you?
Yeah, McCoy was a happy, healthy 4-year-old little boy and became sick. And he needed to have emergency treatment at Seattle Children's Hospital, but they couldn't give him chemotherapy. They took a lab draw and found that his white blood cell count was over 400,000. And they knew he had leukemia or lymphoma, but they couldn't tell which. They had to draw spinal fluid and test the spinal fluid for leukemic blasts before they could give him chemotherapy. It's a national law. They have to, it's the American Medical Association's policy, and it's law to the hospital, that you cannot give chemotherapy even to a dying child unless you pull spinal fluid. but he was so lymphoblastic and swollen with tumors that his airway was down to the size of a pencil lead, and his superior vein was blocked so blood could go to his head but not return to his body, to his heart. And they said it was like his heart was beating inside 100 rubber bands. So if they sedated him for the lumbar puncture, he would crash, he would die. There was nothing they could do. And for over 24 hours, they deliberated between, oncology, the cancer department, wanting to give him chemotherapy, but they couldn't until the surgical department was able to draw spinal fluid. So they were stuck. And they literally said, we have nothing to offer your son, but we have seen you be in the moment with him to get him to put on his oxygen mask. And I reframed it so that he would, I said that, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, an astronaut. And I said, well, what don't they have out in space? And he said, oxygen. And I said, so this is kind of like astronaut training. So I got him. They were literally, I went out for the first time in 2 days to get a cup of coffee. And when I came back, they were holding him down, trying to force this mask on him. And I said, get away from my son. What are you doing? Nobody's ever going to hold my son down, which is common policy practice in the hospital. If they can't get you to hold still for an IV, they'll hold you down. And that's the spiral of dissension right there. So that knowing in me at the time that, hey, I don't like to be held down. Nobody's going to hold down my son. That started it. And a doctor and a nurse saw me do that and said in a care conference, we don't have anything to offer your son, but we do think if we can get permission for you to scrub in and get in the operating room and talk him through it, that we'd have a chance to do it without sedation. So that's exactly what happened. They were able to draw 3 vials of spinal fluid out of McCoy's spine, where the nerve bundles around the spine are the most sensitive in the body. And they had to put him in the fetal position to open up, like getting an epidural. But this is a needle that's going to draw spinal fluid out. And I was able to talk him through it and get him in what I learned to be a theta brainwave mind out of body state, where he was entrained in my voice and we were in theta together, coherently breathing and training our heart rate. And he would like kind of snore every 4th or 5th breath. He was down in theta and trying to go to sleep, and then he would snore back up and hear my voice. And he was just riding theta in and out of awake and asleep. And they were able to pull the spinal fluid without him batting an eye. So that's where I was just like, what did we just do? We were the eye of the storm. Everybody was moving slowly, and we were just this calm place in the middle. And then I started researching from there and ran into Nassim Haramein talking about the singularity at the eye of the storm. And that started this path, this journey. And every time I looked for, we did several things. There was not just that procedure and then the kidney transplant with no epidural and no pain meds. There was, I have a list of like a dozen things that we're going to talk about in the roundtable, where he had amazing adrenal response after 3 years of high dose steroids because of the juicing and the energy work we did to keep his adrenal glands functioning, even though they were being bombarded with high dose steroids and had nothing to do. They usually shrivel up to the size of a raisin and then don't function the rest of their life. If they get stung by a bee, they can die. So that's not the outcome that I wanted for my son. So being in the moment, I got the download of what to juice him, how to do the energy work. I mean, there's several different things that we're going to talk about in this roundtable. So that's how it started. And having miracles like that happen, and then searching the internet for answers, scientific language to describe what we were doing, because I couldn't say, woo-woo to the doctors and we rub crystals and all, there's magic. It had to be scientifically based in order to have the anesthesiologists and the doctors trust us to go with minimal anesthesia. And, that those things saved his life over and over again. Yeah.
That's such a powerful story. Thank you so much for sharing
You're
it.
welcome.
Yeah, because it was the story of McCoy that brought us together in the first place, really, wasn't it? In the Higher Self Expo, which kind of links us on really nicely to where you're moving on to now with your new podcast with Geraldine, who also was at the Higher Self Expo. So, am I right in assuming that your first podcast with Geraldine is this Friday?
Yeah.
Is that right? With Thomas Verne?
It is 11 o'clock Pacific, and we're going live with Dr. Thomas Verne, who I co-interviewed with Michio Hayashi from the Emoto Peace Project. And she was graciously, nice enough to invite me to interview. And then Thomas Verne and I have struck up a friendship because I am practicing what he has researched for 30 years, for 30, 40 years. And it's amazing. And in the podcast, we're going to talk about how consciousness is in the toroidal field of the heart, and how we have somatic trauma that we body armor, and it doesn't have the ability to get the update and upgrade from consciousness as our other cells do. And so that's how old triggers from childhood can remain just like they happened yesterday and produce the same blood chemistry in your body. So we're going to talk about how that happens and how that's released, and how, we can bring that in for humanity.
Incredible.
Yeah. And his book will definitely have a place in this circle. This is an older picture, and I've just read his manuscript. I haven't got his new book yet. I mean, I haven't got it in book form. I got it as a manuscript to interview him. So when I receive his new book, I'm going to put it in place, and then I'll
where on your flat spiral are you going to put it?
Wow, that is I think it's right after Molecules of Emotion, before Energy Medicine. And it's, like I said, each of these books dip into the middle too. They all have consciousness in them somewhere, where they acknowledge consciousness, and being consciously aware is what allows us to change the biology of our beliefs. I mean, that's what Bruce Lipton teaches. And the whole idea of this is to coalesce all their teachings together, because they all have their genre of expertise and they overlap. Like, you'll find commonalities in biology of belief, you are the placebo, molecules of emotion, embodied mind. You'll find the same, some of the same things, but they all have their speciality, their genre. But connecting them all is divinity, is consciousness. And they were all in that download when they received the information for these books. And I think every one of them will tell you that's going to be part of the interview and part of the roundtable, is that just like a songwriter or a poem writer, they got the download themselves for humanity. And the culmination, if you look at all of them, the culmination of all their careers is to bring this mainstream, Western medicine, Western society, part of integrated into life, that if everybody immediately knew this information, what a different world we would live in.
Be incredible.
Yeah, it will be.
Given that consciousness and intention drives us into a new direction, and that you are celebrating the very thought-provoking books that are reflecting divinity, where is your book going to be? Because you must be moving into the direction of books yourself.
Yeah, I've got a lot of notes. I've got so many. It's daunting. It'll be right when the timing's right. I've been asked that before. And I think that I'm close. Close. But my book, when it is downloaded, when I get it all, and I take boots to the ground to make it happen. Like we say, pray but row toward shore, right?
Yes, make it work.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. It might just be this whole thing with, I mean, this is a TED Talk. This is a book. This is a way of learning. Like Bruce Cryer said with the Graduate Institute, that from this roundtable, with however many people we get to represent their books and their teachings, that they want to do spin-off workshops for continued education credits. Because, we have people that, like, I've connected with Scarlett Lewis from the Choose Love Foundation, Jessie Lewis Choose Love Foundation. She has ambassadors in 46 different countries. Her son was 5 and shot at the Sandy Hook school shooting. He was murdered. Right. And she created the Jessie Lewis Choose Love Foundation. And we're going to work together. Mm-hmm. And then I connect with Pamela Gregory, who does forgiveness healing for humanity. And we're going to work together on a project. And they're perfect people to do spin-off workshops. Yeah. And I have your friend Jenny, who I spoke with.
She's agreed to come on your podcast, hasn't she?
She has. And I would love her to handle a spin-off workshop for nurses.
Yeah.
And that is how we want to integrate it. We want to show how it can work for all humans. But then we also want to have workshops in their speciality, in the genre that they're practicing in, from people who can help them choose love. Like Scarlett Lewis is doing a bus or a motorhome tour in New Hampshire, funded by the governor, to go to the different places where she has schooled to choose love, like fire departments and police stations and schools. And she's just very prolific. But one of them is the prison there. And she has their first graduating class coming up. And I've offered to fly over there and teach the coherence breathing to the inmates. So that's my intention of how I can, and I want to network with all these people to coalesce them together. Because believe it or not, there's people on this table that don't know the others exist.
Yeah.
So my job, my privilege, my honor is to be that calm, to be that eye of the storm, be the low pressure system that draws everybody together. And it's not like these people oppose each other. There's nothing about any book that conflicts with the other. They are all common with consciousness and divinity in the middle. Yeah. And everybody needs to have a place at the table and bring it all together, because that's where the magic's going to happen for humanity and Mother Earth, Mother Gaia.
I just need to do a shout out to a couple of people who've joined us a bit late in the conversation, but are very, very welcome. So we've got Jack Polly from Portugal. Wishing us a very happy day to Louisa and Jeff. And we've also got a good afternoon from Wolfgang, who I believe is now down in the Algarve enjoying himself, originally from America. So we've got quite a few nice people watching in. So this is a really big project. And a huge step. And I think what I've noticed in the last few interviews that we've done or chats that we've had is like a change in you. I've been observing you change each time we've met up. And I can actually see the physical change. And it's like, I mean, obviously women, when we're birthing something, our bellies get big and our boobs get big and all sorts of different things happen. You're Beautiful. You're doing the male version of that. To me, it looks like your physicality is changing in alignment with this huge and magnificent calling that is occurring for you. Your whole body is rising up with the magnitude of it, because obviously you're not going to be able to pull it off if you're not in your best peak state or in a flow state. It's really easy and beautiful. Well, it's really beautiful and clear to observe. I just wanted to comment that.
Thank you. And it really is, because when I was preparing my presentation, which is part of this presentation for the Higher Self Expo, I looked at the name and I'm like, am I my highest self? And am I showing up to my clients, my care recipients, as my best self? And I had this project was stagnant, and the Talaris Wellness Center that I'm creating was stagnant. And I had got all the way to the table, the negotiating table, and got their approval to negotiate on the property. And then it was like, okay, right now my job's done physically. I just need to stay in the center of the vortex. And then when you want the universe to change, the only thing you can change is yourself. So that's when I started. And on July 3rd, I told you I started getting up early. For a year, I've been telling, you can ask Susie or Bonnie or anybody around me. I've been chatting, saying it, talking the talk, but not walking the walk for over a year. I said, I need to get my morning routine down, like Joe Dispenza, get up at 4 a.m., do your, meditation, get it while the melatonin's still there. And then change my diet, change my nutrition, I should say, and then intermittent fast. And that I think a month ago, I was telling you that I got to 8 minutes on my plank.
Oh, yes. Tell me what's happened with your plank.
By doing the coherence breathing. This morning was 18 and a half minutes.
No way.
Yeah. I passed 18 minutes on Friday. I took 3 days off and I came back and did, this morning I did 18 and a half minutes and I quit. I mean, I didn't quit. I stopped before failure. And that's one of the things I'm working with somebody else is one of the key things, and this could be the title of a book or whatever, is, you have biology of belief. That is the biology in your body based on your subconscious belief systems. And he talks about how to change that. But what I'm showing is the physiology of knowing, which is different than the biology of belief. And if you look at knowing, means that you're consciously intending to change your outcome. You are taking it from just a belief system you're reacting to, and you're taking this knowledge and you're incorporating it intentionally, knowing that it'll work. So when I did my plank, I just want to use this as an example, is that I started out and went 6 minutes, which my best was 4 minutes before 3 years ago, shaking and sweating profusely. So using the coherent breathing, I just intended to see how it would go. And I went to 6 minutes and I stopped. And the next day I said, okay, I'm just going to do 6 minutes again, because that's really good. And I knew that I could do it because I just did it the day before. So it wasn't, I believe I could, or I'm challenging myself. It's just, I'm going to do 6 minutes because I know I can do it. So I had a physiology of knowing. So I started out doing it and I got to 6 minutes and I said, well, I might as well go 15 more seconds. And then the next day I said, well, I know I can do 6 minutes and 15 seconds. So I'm just going to do that again. And I got to it and I said, well, that was, I'm not failing. So I'm just going to do 15 seconds more. So now I'm adding like 30 seconds a day. And I'm maintaining the coherent heart rhythm through about 16 or 17 minutes of that time. And then the last part of the time, I let go of my wrist. I just breathe in and out freely without worrying about my heart rate. And I have music going and I just kind of bop around and dance and celebrate. And I'm in that, that zone. And I got to 18 minutes and said, well, why don't I just do 30 more? And then I got to 8 minutes and 30 seconds and 18 minutes and 30 seconds. And I could have went longer. So I decided to stop before failure so that I have the knowledge that I can do that again. So that's kind of, how we become a quantum alchemist, because in order for me to draw these people into the round table, I have to vibrate at my purest frequency. I have to be my highest self. I have to be focused on the right intention. I can't be worried about money. I can't be worried about outcomes. I just have to stay in the center of the vortex and be as powerful as I can. that's all we can do.
That's absolutely beautiful. We're coming up to an hour, and it's going to go over a little bit because, it's my show and that's how I want it to be. It's
That's
fine.
all right.
It's always nice for us to chat. We've had a message from Anne Barrell-Cox. So she joined us right at the start and she's saying, thank you for a profound and inspirational discussion. And thank you, Anne, for, listening in, because I know Anne actually listens to a lot of really great stuff. And so it's really nice to know that she considers this to be, important enough to listen into. It's amazing.
Right.
Now, you were talking about the coherence breathing. So that's something that we've been practicing. You've been teaching me over the last 4 shows, I guess. And we do have it down in a kind of handy little format. There's a short little 20-minute one, where you can actually go and practice the breathing. But could we maybe leave with the coherence breathing? Would that be a nice way to round off today's session?
That would be great. I love that. I do it throughout my day, and it really does multiply the effect.
Yeah.
It's just like neuroplasticity. The more you do something over and over again, the more it becomes just automatic in your body.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to think about it. And I'm really, really experiencing that. I'm kind of pushing the envelope for everybody else. And I love it. The results I get with the people I work with and doing the stir release with them hands-on is just the greatest gift I could ever receive and give. So
but for those of you that are listening, I absolutely invite you to join us, to do this with us if you feel comfortable. Nothing terrible is going to happen. The only good outcome is that you're going to be able to relax even more effectively than you already have. So what I would suggest is you ground yourself, get very comfortable in your seat, your feet on the floor, get nice and comfortable. And then just before we start, Jeff, would you be able to just briefly just explain what we're going to be doing?
Okay, and you want to do just the coherence breathing, not the reset, not the...
the 4 up until the stir, so...
okay, so the reset, controlled breathing. Okay, very good. So when you are in your day and you feel any type of human winding, any angst at all, what we do is we face it and we breathe it in and we dissipate it out. And the reset breathing is 4 seconds, powerful inhale through the nose, and then an oral exhale for 8 seconds out of the mouth with an O sound. Oh, really really rattle those vocal cords because they vibrate the vagal nerves to release serotonin. And we're going to do that. And then we're going to go to the controlled breathing, which is gentle, 5 seconds in the nose and 6 seconds out of the mouth with an awe, the vowel sound of God, awe sound, deep and lumbery, and as noisy as you can be, but gentle, easy in, easy out, about 60% smooth, no holding at the top or bottom. And then we're going to do, that's 5 cycles. And then right at the end of the exhale, we're going to find our pulse on our wrist, or the carotid artery, or the femoral artery is another thing I've advanced to. And we're going to count heartbeats. We're going to switch from 5 seconds in the nose and 6 seconds out of the mouth into 5 heartbeats nasal inhale and 6 heartbeats oral exhale. And that's through our 3 steps of breathing. So if we wiggle ourselves into reality here and get grounded, like Louisa said, get in a comfortable position.
I've got a fly that's wanting to get in on the act. So
you do. I've seen that happen. That's in your mic. Yes. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So it likes your left eye for some reason.
It really does. I'm just going to let it be.
Okay. So here we go. 4 seconds in the nose, as much as you can. Ready? Go. 2, 3, 4. Oral exhale. Oh, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Easy, gentle inhale, nose. 2, 3, 4, 5. Oral exhale with an ah. Ah, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Gentle in the nose. 3, 4, 5. Oral exhale, ah, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, nose. Oral exhale, ah, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Gentle in the nose. 3, 4, 5. Oral exhale with an ah, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more time. Nasal inhale. Oral exhale, ah, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Grab your wrist and find your pulse, or your neck. Just keep your breathing going. And breathe in for 5 heartbeats. Oral exhale for 6 heartbeats. We won't be exact, so just count on your own. And I want you to notice that your heartbeat speeds up when you breathe in, and it slows down as you breathe out. You might not feel it slowing down until 4, 5, and 6. You're creating homeostasis in your body and the autonomic swing. Exhale, really notice it slow down. Then let it speed up. Just take a nice gentle inhale and then feel it speed up. And then as you exhale, 3, 4, it slows down like a stair step, going slower and slower. Very good. One more time. Feel it speed up. Oral exhale. Really slow it down. Really accentuate the beat. And there you have it.
Et voila. How magnificent was that? That was awesome. Thank you so much once again, Jeff.
You're welcome.
And thank you so much to all of the amazing people that joined us today, those that were here live, and for all of you that caught us again another time. We love you all, and we hope you join us another time. If people want to contact you, do you want them to go to your website, Jeff?
Yeah, jeff@mindfulpresence.org is the best way to get me. I'm on Facebook. I use Messenger. I put out my phone number for text. Call me. I'm wide open. And all of you, thank you for being here. And put the word out. Tell your friends. Share this. And let's spread the word and bring that roundtable to fruition.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Let's say goodbye then. I will speak to you real soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Much love. Bye-bye, everybody.